Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Lovely People webinar. And tonight we have the lovely Anke Herrmann. And I met Anke in November in Ivy Bridge when we were both speakers at a conference there that was arranged by the lovely Liz and Stu. We had a really amazing day, didn't we? And
we did.
Met and we connected because we found out that we had something in common. We both have a love of sewing. So do you want to introduce yourself, Anke, and tell people a little bit about you, and we will see how it goes from there.
Okay, well, thanks so much for having me. It's lovely to be here. I've been on the webinar several times as a guest, or as a mouse without video, so I'm really happy to be here. And it's lovely to see you again, because yeah, that was just one amazing day in Ivy Bridge, that's for sure. Yeah, so well, I don't even know where to start, because like, I'm old enough to talk or rattle on for a while. No, I'm originally from Germany, and but East Germany. So I grew up behind the East German wall, and I think sort of getting out of East Germany before the wall came down sort of seemed like something that was sort of a disadvantage, you know, that actually later on, looking back, has proved to be, you know, paving the way for things that I probably never thought, you know, I could do. But compared to that, everything seemed kind of wasn't that much of a big deal. So then I finished uni in West Germany and met my then husband, and then we moved to Australia. So, I mean, he was Australian. Wow. And so I lived in Australia for 5 years, and that was I quickly realized I was a translator. Like, you know, I'd studied languages and I was a translator, and I quickly found out that that wasn't something you could easily make money with in Sydney. And so I thought, I need to get out. Like, I hate Mondays, not a good place to be. And I more or less stumbled into software development. And then I came to London with that whole IT wave thing. And everybody went to London, so why not? And so I came to the UK and stayed there for about 5 years. And then it was kind of time for a change again. The whole industry had changed. It wasn't quite what it used to be. Everything had to be outsourced to India, and so everything all the way forward went towards project management, and that wasn't my thing. You know, I kind of like I need a bit of creativity, and you know, that combination between skill and creativity. And when I don't have that, I'm like, And that was kind of, okay, so what could I do if I could do anything I wanted? Oh, well, I actually went on holiday to Spain, and I came to Granada, and I walked through the old part of town, and I thought, God, it's so nice here. It's like as if time had stood still. And I was like, you know, life is simple. I wish I could live here. And then I was like, okay, so what exactly would that mean? What would I do for a living? And then I was like, you know, if I could have anything I wanted, but didn't have to worry about money or paperwork or like anything, if I could just have anything I wanted, what would I do? And like, I knew, like, instantly, because I was actually cutting a dress on my dining table, and I had some flamenco music playing in the background. And I'm like, yeah, I'd have a little sewing studio, and it would be small, and it'd be like made to measure, like really personal contact with the clients. I never imagined big fashion shows and, you know, this season's collection, and that, like, whole fashion industry is not my thing. But that personal service, you know, to kind of create something for a particular client, you know, for an event, that was like, yeah, and it had to have something to do with flamenco music. And so I thought, well, okay, what exactly makes it impossible? And I just couldn't think of anything. And, and so I thought, well, okay, it's worth a try. And so, but it was really the reason was more that I thought I'd rather go and give it a go and see what happens, And if it doesn't turn out the way I think, or if what that ends up being isn't kind of what I like, well, then I just gonna go do something else. But I just didn't want to kind of look back 20 years later and think, oh, I wonder what, living in Spain would have been like. And so I thought I'd rather go, and if I fall on my face, then I fall on my face. And I just think there's always still time to think of plan B. And so I quit my job, packed up, and moved to Spain. And I was lucky because when I resigned, I thought I'd be kind of like, my bosses would be quite peeved off. And it turns out they weren't. They actually called me back a couple of days later, and I thought, oh, I'm going to be in trouble now, because they just actually hired me back. And so I walk in, and it was the boss's boss, and they say, actually, we kind of knew you were a little bit nuts, but we didn't think it was that bad. But still, we thought, would you mind working for us from Spain?
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, that's kind of, and I thought, oh, I didn't expect that. So that was actually really nice, because I had this 9 months contract to just maintain the software that I kind of worked on before. So it was a really easy job, but I had 9 months with income where I could just sort of find my feet and see how I liked living in Spain. And so that made the beginning a lot easier. So that's for sure. And so then I kind of started kind of making skirts and making stuff, and really found it difficult, because I didn't know whether, Spanish sort of flamenco people would even order something from a German would-be dressmaker, because I'd sewn as a hobby. I've got no formal quality. I've never, I've got no idea really. And it was really kind of, I was running around, knocking on doors and kind of all the flamenco schools, and nothing. And I was really kind of, I don't know. And and then a friend of mine took me, she says, oh, I'm going to this class, and why don't you come watch me dance? And I'm like, okay, if I go to school, I might as well take my little leaflet. And they ended up placing the first really big order, 12 dresses for a performance. And they're still clients of mine, and I still work with them every year. Oh, yeah. And everything sort of took off from there, and it slowly, grew. And a couple of years later was like, oh, actually, this is paying all the bills now. And it sort of grew slowly, but it was a bit that kind of frog that you throw in the water, and then you heat up the water slowly, because this whole, people like Spanish clients are quite forthright with when they want something. Like, they're not like, oh, would you mind, and would that suit you? They say, no, I need this, and I want you to come. And so that was actually really quite a challenge for a good old people pleaser like me. And so sometimes I look back and I think that's probably the lesson I was supposed to learn here, because it really, like, the more the business grew and the more work I got, the more that sense of pressure of people wanting stuff from me, the more that mounted. And I just kind of, in the end, I felt like between sort of a rock and a hard place, and I just couldn't move, couldn't even breathe anymore. And it really came down to this whole sort of burnout, exhaustion, whatever you want to call it. But it was really, I would have, if somebody had offered me a job that day, I would have taken it. like instantly, because it was like, I would actually even hide. Like, the phone would ring and I'd immediately have this cramp in my stomach, like, so it's like, oh God, what else? That means more pressure, somebody else's expectations. And I just thought I couldn't say no, because the place is it's a small town, relatively small. So all the flamenco dancers, all my clients, they kind of know each other. And so I thought, if somebody wants me to take the dress to a theater on a Saturday night, and I say no, well, then she would get upset, and then she'd tell everybody else about it. And then she wouldn't order anymore, and all her friends wouldn't order anymore. And basically, I'd be out in the street within a month. And so, and I actually thought I had a cultural problem, because I noticed that I didn't have the same issues with clients that weren't Spanish. And so I had a demanding client problem, and that basically all that was kind of, the stress was incredible. And it came to the point that I thought, okay, this is it. I just simply cannot bend any further. It was like, you meet me in the street, you go, hey, how are you going? And I'd be bursting into tears. And I was like, stuff it. If this is what that live your dream thing is, I just really don't want it. And I don't care anymore what happens if I say no. If they get upset, so be it. And that's when I then started to say no. Next time somebody came and said, I want you to, oh, sorry, mate, can't do that. And she'd go, okay. And I'm like, what? And weren't you supposed to be upset? And so, let's try this again. Next time somebody may actually be a bit kind of like, oh, disappointed, but then that didn't mean that she wouldn't come back. It didn't mean that other people wouldn't come back. And that's when it dawned on me. That's when it dawned on me that the entire stress that got me to like this total burnout place, that I'd made that up. That I'd made up this whole chain of consequences. And it was all bullshit. It just wasn't true at all. And that's when it's like, oh, like, when you feel kind of, when you're looking for your glasses and then you realize you had them on your head the whole time. When you feel kind of, you're glad you found them, but you feel like kind of stupid and sheepish at the same time, like that. And so from that moment, actually, things started to turn around like really quickly. And sometimes people, like when I tell people about it, they kind of go, oh, I never knew. Like sort of, it seems from the outside, like literally from the outside, nothing has changed at all. But the experience, like entirely different. And that's when I kind of saw, oh, actually, this can be fun. And it doesn't have, like, the stress is optional. And that's when I kind of thought, oh God, I have to share that with other people. I mean, simply the fact that there's so many small businesses starting and not surviving beyond, whatever the statistics are, proves that like people are struggling, and so I thought, okay, how can I help other people in a similar situation? And then people go, oh, you should write a book. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, what's the point of that? What's the point of me saying what worked for me? It's like, no, I need to find a way to help people find their own way. And that's how I came to the idea that, no, coaches do that. I want to be a coach. And then there was like, how do I do that? And as a good old geek, I had to kind of, okay, what software platforms do exist to run a coaching business? I probably knew more about that than most people way before I even knew how to actually coach someone. And I ended up on Nicola Bird's mailing list because she was running the Jigsaw Box, like a platform for coaches. And she one day announced a new online course that she promoted with a guy called Michael Neal. And it was called Coaching from the Inside Out. And I was like, oh, I like the sound of that. Because like my whole experience really felt it was the whole change, the whole shift was from the inside out. So that was like, oh, that I want to know what that is. And so immediately I kind of had a look and then I said, oh, Jamie Smart, I've heard of him before. I had his salad cards. And so I knew instantly, like, yeah, that's the bit I was missing. That's the bit I was looking for. And so yeah, I haven't looked back since.
Wow. I love the fact that when you were sharing that you actually had that huge experience and that huge turnaround before you even came across this understanding, which is great because it sort of shows the one thing that I'm always trying to get across is these principles are always there. They're not something that kind of happens when you begin to understand them. They were always there. And then when you come to this, it kind of explains, like you had that huge turnaround. And I bet it was really lovely to kind of then actually be able to be like, oh, that's how it's gone around. That was
yes. Actually, and it's I think of that often because understanding now, like that's why I kind of, when I started sort of reading about these principles, I kind of like, oh, now I see. And not only why and how the turnaround happened, you know, that was kind of this insight I could see through it. Like that was one part, but actually almost more interesting was to see why it had worked in the first place. You know, because like I went in, like if you tell somebody, oh, what, I mean, you start a business and people do business plans and this and that. My business plan let's just see what happens. So, like, that was my business plan. Like, I had literally no clue. No, not true. I did actually download a template for business plans before I started. And I looked at this and I thought, that's utterly useless. Like, every single column was like, I have no idea. I can't, there was nothing I could really do from my desk, to estimate how much I could, I don't even know whether people would buy a flamenco costume from a German, and so there was only one way to find out. So I just like, oh, well, let's see what happens, and one step at a time. And I look back now and I think it's that kind of, to look at it as an experiment, that whole, it doesn't matter. That thing, there's nothing at stake. I had the whole time, and that's why I sometimes think is that whole thing about getting out of East Germany, because that was like, okay, well, either you try and sort of jump the wall in one way, physically sort of get out and risk getting shot. And I wasn't that nuts. So I kind of went the sort of official way. You kind of hand in like an application to say, like, I want to leave. And they go, no, there's no legal basis for this. Like, you just, there is no way that you can get out of this country. But like, we all knew it was bullshit. But the thing was, the moment you handed in that paper meant that your future in East Germany is gone. Like, there was no, like, okay, you get kicked out of uni, you don't get anything other than the most kind of pathetic jobs. And so you have no future there. And you don't know if and when they'll ever let you out. But then when you get out, it means like, okay, you've got your papers, you're out in 2 weeks, off you go. And that also meant that you could never come back. Like, literally never. Wow. And anybody you kind of know wasn't ever going to be allowed out to visit you. So that was kind of one-way ticket with the door behind you, like, really closed. And I always felt that, I mean, we didn't know then that the wall would come down sort of shortly after anyway. I mean, nobody had any idea. And so that was kind of a one-way ticket thing, where you think, well, yeah, it's like, if you then don't like what's on the other end, you're pretty much stuffed. But so that's why moving to Australia, so what? No big deal. Moving to Spain, not a big deal. There was always that, well, if it doesn't turn out the way I think, I can always grab my bag and go somewhere else. There just didn't seem to be anything at stake. And I think that sort of playfulness, that kind of like, I don't really care what happens. I don't really care how this turns out. And I think that is actually what made it possible.
Mm. It's what you're sharing is amazing. And it's kind of like, for me, that sort of thing has absolutely happened the opposite way around. I took my life very, very seriously. I thought, I wouldn't have ever dared do anything. I wouldn't have ever dared step out of line. And it's sort of, as I've come across the principles and began to understand this, it's kind of like now, oh, hey, there's really nothing at stake here. Let's just kind of play at this game. And like my two nieces that are on here tonight, Lou and Beck, they're giving up their jobs and moving down to Devon, and I'm moving house, and we're kind of throwing, and that to me, like, is all the things you're describing. It's just coming from a place of, do you know what? We've sort of written a few lines of a business plan, and we're just absolutely having a hoot playing this game. Let's pretend we're doing this. Let's see what happens. Let's pretend we're going to arrange all these events and do this. And it feels like we're playing Monopoly.
But and I think that's actually I don't know, I think it's actually the key too. Because like, whenever you kind of get too serious or get in that focused pitbull kind of mode, then it isn't going to happen. Usually, and you can talk to anybody, and you kind of get that a lot when you talk to people who sort of start building coaching business, and variations of that story you hear all the time. It's like, oh, and I tried really hard, and I did this and I did that, and like really kind of hustle and push, and nothing happened, and it kind of didn't. It's heavy, and nothing comes back. And the moment they go, you know what? Stuff it. I don't care. Like, whatever. I'm done with this. The moment you don't care, when all of a sudden, when it's a game and it's an experiment, that's when all of a sudden stuff happens, because you're not so tense, you can actually see what's right in front of you. And I think, and that's why I think this understanding is so powerful, because it shows you that on a deeper level, there's never anything at stake. Even though kind of on the everyday hustle kind of level, it seems there is, but when you kind of know that deep down you're okay anyway, it gives you that sense of no, there isn't anything at stake. So we can just go and play. And when you go and play, I think you have a much, much better chance of success, whatever you want to do. If you just want to do it just for the pure fun of it, I think it's a totally different ball game than if you think, oh God, I need to get this working to be happy. And, it's a totally different vibe to it.
It's definitely, I can see a huge difference in me from that perspective, and a huge difference, in Lucy and Becky. It's just, we've been just having a ball. We've just been kind of shall we just say we're going to do this? Yeah, come on, let's see what happens. And it's definitely, the stuff that's kind of just been unfolding, the unfolding of it, describing. I didn't kind of know much about your story, and it's been really listening to you, I've been like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, the unfolding thing, I think that's really powerful. That's really, because it's also accepting that we never really know anyway. I mean, you can make all the plans you want. It's you don't even know what you're going to think for a second from now. So and to kind of be so oh, you need to. I mean, it doesn't mean that you kind of don't have a direction. You probably have, and I loved it when Jamie said he tells the story quite often actually, and I can't ever remember the name. Who says an author who says writing a book is like driving at night in the rain with the fog lights on. You can only see a hand 15 meters in front of you, but you can make the whole journey that way.
Yeah.
And I'm yeah.
And I think there's a lot of truth about that in life, and we put this on ourselves. I have to know. I have to know.
That's the thing. And the moment you can accept that you will never know anyway, then it's oh, okay. It kind of takes your mind, and that's again where this understanding explains why the stuff that works. It's because you don't have all that crap on your mind. And it almost feels as if it opens the channel for ideas when you're not kind of so busy kind of worrying and busy thinking whatever and trying to control what you can't control anyway. You think, oh, actually these events, that sounds like fun. And then you just take the next step that makes sense in that direction. And you don't have to know every single step until you get there, because you're never going to know anyway. And I think as long as you try, you're busy doing stuff that doesn't get you anywhere. But when you kind of accept that, hey, I can't know, and I don't need to know.
Yeah, it was really interesting when you said about moving to Spain, and it was kind of you just, you went to Granada, you loved it, you thought, what's stopping me moving here? And I think very often, I know I would have got into a lot of thinking, oh, can I do that with no job, and can I move there, and oh my goodness. The thing is, then when you said your job, you actually ended up having this 9 months, it's we can't know we can't make a decision because we don't have all the facts until we're there. And I see that so much now. It's kind of oh, just sort of go with it, because we haven't got the whole equation, have we? We have no idea what else is going to sort of present itself, what else is going to
exactly. Yeah, but that's the thing, is you can have this super spark of an idea that comes to you right now. And that's also the other thing, when we watch ourselves, when we get kind of worried about something, when you think about it, it's always because you see something in the future that kind of oh shit, and you can't see the path to overcome it.
Yeah.
And that's when you start worrying. And then really at the end of the day, all it is, you forget that things can happen that you can't see, that you can have an idea like any second, you know, and just because you can't see the path doesn't mean there isn't one. You know, and I think we all just forget.
And it's great, I think, like talking to you, it's kind of like you were just prepared to be like, well, let's get in the game. You know what play, you know, who knows how this is going to play out, but let's just get in the game. And I think very often that's the hurdle we fall at, isn't it? We're kind of like, we don't want to get in the game until we've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's and know for sure we're going to be on the winning team and know for sure how play is going to happen. And
that's the thing. I mean, but that's the thing. That's the illusion. And on the other hand, like the other element that comes in there, like for me, it wasn't all kind of just like happy, bravery. It was also, I'd seen, like when I was living in Australia, I had a friend and she was like a couple of years younger than me. And she had this thing about turning 30, you know, and I was like a couple of years older than her. And I'm like, don't worry, you know, nothing's going to change. You're going to wake up in the morning and you're 30 now, but like nothing's going to change. And turns out she passed away at 32. And it was like kind of really creepy, you know, and then also I saw my grandma. And so she was like, for me, she was like my mum, basically, like sort of this really close person. And I saw she was really sort of unhappy in her marriage with my grandpa, because he was like very German, very, you know, rigid. His way was the only way, basically emotional intelligence kind of towards zero. And she was this sparkly, bubbly, like, you know, and she'd read somewhere that statistically women outlive their husbands by about 7 years. And so as long as I can remember, she was looking forward to those 7 years she was going to have, where she was finally going to learn how to drive, where she was going to go dancing, where she was going to have people over for barbecue and just basically live and sparkle and, you know, and do all the things that grandpa would let her do. And she passed away first. And so I kind of think I have this thing. It's like I saw her sort of with her, like she passed away with her music still in her. And I think that's probably been quite a driver in that sense. Like, it wasn't so much that I thought I couldn't live without kind of living in Spain, or like I needed that. I was just like, I don't want to look back at any point regretting all the things that I hadn't done. You know, I think that's where that driver comes from. That I'm thinking I'd rather go and let's see what happens. And if I fall on my face, I don't care, because none of that would be worse or not even half as bad as getting to the end of my life thinking, oh, I never got to do this. I wish I had done that. And I wish, I wish I'd lived. And I think a lot of the driver comes from there, definitely.
It's really interesting listening to you. I didn't completely, we didn't speak a long time, and I didn't really know your story. So it's really fascinating, kind of hearing what happened for you. And isn't it? I mean, I know how much I didn't allow myself to do all sorts of things because of the thinking I was having and listening to. And it's kind of really interesting when we get to that point and see it's all made up.
Yeah.
You know, we can, and it doesn't guarantee you success. It doesn't guarantee, and I'm sure, you know, in your life, all the things you're describing, I'm sure there's been times when you've kind of thought, oh my gosh, why did I come
you wow. can't, I mean, you know, like, yeah, you know, and I mean, that's the thing. It was it went slowly, and it was like in 2012 was the point where it's like, that was the, like, but it was so far in, and it was sort of the middle of economic crisis, because it was also the thing. It was a time when, if someone had offered me a job, I would have taken it, you know. And in hindsight, I'm kind of glad that wasn't, but it was just not because I didn't look for a job. It was just because, you know, with like 50% unemployment, it was just not going to happen. And yeah, and there've been like, you know, nights worked through, and, you know, it surely hasn't always been pleasant, that's for sure. But then that's the thing, that's got nothing to do with Spain, you know. and to realize that I don't know, I find it super helpful to know, like, even if like in the moment it doesn't always look like it, that the stress comes from, you know, from inside of me. It like kind of damn well quite often looks like it comes from the deadline, or from the client, or from the fabric not arriving in time, or whatever it is right now. But kind of at the end of the day, always known, actually, I mean, I find that super helpful, because it kind of frees me from trying to control something that I cannot control. And so it kind of, oh, okay. So yeah, when, you know, when you kind of, when you're looking for something and there's like, and you think someone else has kind of misplaced it, you know, and you kind of, you go, oh, and then you realize, oh shit, it was me. Oh, okay, all right, not that bad. And so I kind of think, yeah, it's like just to, and to actually to know that everybody experiences their own world, you know, that comes through a filter from all the different experiences. Like, that's also opened up a lot of room for compassion. You know, just to think that other people, like, they just do what makes sense to them, you know. And I think that's, and people can sense that, you know, when, you'll know that when there's this sense of compassion, even if they behave like an idiot, you know.
So do you still make the dresses now? So you still do have your sewing business and you run a coaching business. So it's interesting to me that you have come from a place of being so stressed just running your sewing business. You're now kind of doing these two things.
It's actually funny, because it's really noticeable that, like, that's funny you mentioned that. It's because it's such a classic example that the stress isn't coming from, you know, like the stressful business. Because I've looked, like, you know, I always have this kind of really busy spring season, and then I look back and I'm still thinking, like, the last few years have been actually really cruisy, you know. and you know, and clients that don't know client dramas, and it's like, you know, it's actually quite, yeah, I mean, there'll be some long days, and, you know, it's not that there isn't, like, you know, there's so many meters of fabric to work, so the amount of work's there, but the stress I experience is like, and I'm thinking, actually, yeah, last few years we have been really cruisy. And then I'm looking, I was like, actually, I probably have made twice as many dresses as in the year that I was like totally frantic. And the hours for the coaching just somehow magically appear. You know, and the sewing work gets done, and I don't know, it just sort of, I mean, and there you can see it's not the amount of dresses, it's not the amount of hours, it's none of that. Yeah.
Shall we ask if anyone has got any questions, or anyone would like to make any comments or ask any questions? So if anyone would like to put their hand up or unmute themselves, or, okay, Maureen, I will unmute you. Hello, Maureen, you have a question?
No, I have an observation.
Okay.
So listening to your story about just upping sticks and moving to Spain. So I've been talking about moving countries since 2007.
Oh, I remember. Weren't you going to do retreats in Spain?
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, originally I was going to be moving to Italy, and then Brexit happened, and then the value of the pound went through the floor. So my husband, who's very sensible and very logical, decided that Spain was cheaper, so therefore Spain would be a better option. So I went along with this idea. And then just before Christmas, I thought, sod it. This is a major league move we're doing here. Why am I settling for what seemed at the time second best? Because my heart is in Italy, not in Spain. Nothing wrong with Spain, love it to bits, but it's not where I want to be. So we're now looking at properties at the beginning of May.
Oh, fantastic.
But going back to the just packing your bags and going to Spain, giving up your job and stuff, I would have done that years ago. I just have a very risk-averse husband. And it would have been, and I can't sell the house from under him. So it's a bit of a limiting factor, but it's true.
That's funny.
So yeah, so I've been biding my time. It was on the table, it was off the table, it's on the table, and while it's on the table at the moment, I am running with this.
Yeah. Go with the flow.
So,
yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah,
So,
I love it.
I am running a retreat in Spain in April, just to pitch there, just to put it in. I do need more people to sign up because I'm running at a loss at the minute, but that's just an aside. But the plan is to fully relocate to Italy and in the current year.
Fantastic. Congratulations. Yeah, and plan A is always, I always have go with plan A first, and if that doesn't work out, there's always time to think of plan B.
Exactly. Yeah. What's the worst that can happen? I'm going to have to pick olives for the rest of my days, but hey.
That's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Actually,
or get a man that can, but that's not good.
Actually, it's funny. Yeah, I don't like what struck me was that, oh shit, I've been kind of carrying on with this since 2007. It's like, yeah, in the end, it's kind of like, yeah, so you're doing it now. And I think there's also no rush for these things. I mean, mind you, I took 2 years from the idea, let's move to Spain, to actually moving. Like, I'm not totally kind of nuts, I took yeah, I think kind of sort of to go with it doesn't mean that you kind of have to be sort of. I remember watching there was this TV program where it was like British people kind of like moving or moving to a different country, and the TV station, they would kind of sponsor them for a month, and then they'd go with the camera. And I remember I saw this family that wanted to go to the south of France. And I watched that, and I'm like, I've moved countries, careers, languages like 3-4 times. I'm not risk adverse in that sense, right? I watched this and was like, you're stupid. A family with like 2 kids, that had to go to school, and he was like doing some like artisan kind of stuff, and she did massage or whatever. And so they didn't speak a word of French. They kind of got there. That's when they realized that her qualifications weren't recognized there. I'm like, Jesus, and then it's not just like 2 people who kind of find their way and pick olives. Like, they have the kids in school. Yeah. And so like, I wasn't like that, and I think if stuff takes its time, well, then so be it. It's something I actually remember. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, it's about just getting in the game, really, isn't it? And you're definitely in the game, Maureen, aren't you?
I've been in this game for a bloody long time, Debs.
Yeah.
But we're still there. We're hanging on to this.
Yeah. And it's going to come together, when it's time to come together. And that's cool. It reminds me, I got coached by Dr. Mark Howard last year, and I came with this whole issue of, I want to transition from the sewing business to coaching, and I felt there was this transition, and I have to kind of keep sewing to earn the money, and then I don't have enough time to coach. That whole drama with the transition. And then he goes, what's the rush? And I'm like, he goes, so what do you think having a full-time coaching business by the 15th of March will give you? And I'm like, oh, yeah. and that relocation or the business, like none of that is gonna make me happy. So I think it's perfect. And the funny thing is, I actually listened to the recording fairly recently. He never said that. He never actually said it. I can't remember but that's what I heard. And I heard it so profoundly that that's always the bit that I remember from that coaching session, and he never even said it. But it was this, what do you think that thing is going to give you? So what's the rush? And I'm always like, oh, okay, every time there's a sense of rush, I'm up in my head. Because things will unfold when they're going to unfold. And I think your move's unfolding beautifully just now. So that sounds really exciting.
It's all coming together, Anke. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you, Maureen.
Where in Spain where's the retreat?
Elche, just south of
okay.
Elche.
That's about 4 hours drive from here.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to book on Maureen's retreat, I'm sure she's quite happy to.
Roll up, get your tickets now.
I'm sure it's going to be absolutely amazing. And if anyone hasn't seen the Lovely People webinar with Maureen on it and they say they want to know a little bit more about her, go back and watch that. It was a good night like this one.
Yeah.
So has anyone else got any questions, or anyone else got any comments or anything they would like to share or ask our lovely Anke? Everybody's mind's always quiet down when we get on these webinars. They all go into this lovely place when you all begin to... It was really interesting, actually, with what Maureen brought in there. It was the whole... I love your story. I love what you've done. I love the way you've moved and you've done that. But equally, it's like part of that, like you say, there's nothing at stake. There's nothing at stake whether you do it, and there's nothing at stake if you don't.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
So if moving countries isn't for you, great. If moving countries,
that's the thing. It's like just like I like everybody gets kind of lit up by something different.
Yeah.
If it's that's just like, oh, that sounds like something fun to do. I always think that that's what you want to follow, whatever that is for you. If that is kind of, oh, let's just kind of make a garden out of that bit behind the house. If that's what gets you kind of, sparkly, then that's the thing. And it doesn't really matter what it is. It just happens, like for me, it happens to be, moving to Spain, or like, changing careers or whatever. Yeah, but it's like, it really doesn't matter. It's just like, I always think, if you kind of have a sense of like a pull, if there's something that's like, I'd love to, do that. Rather than the push thing, oh, I should be,
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's quite a different energy, isn't it, around the I should, and that feels very heavy, doesn't it, when it's like, oh, I should do this, I need to do this. Yeah. And I think, we can get kind of carried away with all the, we see other people and think, oh, my life should be like them, I should be like that person, I should coach like they do or do. And the thing that I love is just be you. Just
exactly,
know what you love. And it's really been, with the whole sewing and everything, because sewing's been a huge part of my life. That's been a passion and a love for me for years. And it is like that whole, I love the creativity, I love the side of that, I absolutely love that. And I followed that for a long, long time, and that brought me hours of happiness.
Yeah. Yes. Nothing you can ask anybody who does something creative, but I think what gets us addicted, like kind of that, because when you're in the middle of something, it's that space of total quiet mind. It actually is that. It's like, when even time disappears.
Yeah.
And there's like, and when you kind of like, and I remember that lovely green coat you were wearing, I'm still quite jealous of that. Such a gorgeous coat. And But like when you kind of make something like that, like when you, or whatever you're making, you know, like when you make something, it's like nothing, like the whole world around you disappears. And you ask a dancer, they'll say that.
Yeah.
You know, and ask somebody who makes music. And I think that's why kind of people feel drawn to doing that, because it's that, like, the world around you doesn't exist.
Mm.
And that's just probably, you know, where meditation and all of that is trying to get you there. Yeah. And everybody has their own way of, you know, it's like, oh, you know, that is really, oh, love that. Love the way I feel when I do that. And so it doesn't really matter what it is.
No, and I think it's beautiful as we begin to understand the principles and we begin to see that feeling that we're trying to get to is always ours anyway.
That's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing. And that's where it's like, yeah, okay, if it's not, that's where this whole kind of don't care about the outcome, where that comes from, because then you don't need to reach whatever goal, because what you think that'll give you, you already have that anyway. Mm. And that's when you can just like, oh, you just do it for the pure joy of it. So much more fun that way.
It is just fun just doing things for the pure joy of doing them.
Yeah.
And it is amazing then how life does begin to unfold in a way that you can kind of see that nothing is any different from anything else. You know, there's nothing better than, because we're very good at comparing things, aren't we? Saying, well, if I was doing this, it would be better than if I was doing that. That's when you begin to see, do you know what? Peeling potatoes in your kitchen or looking out on the mountains from Spain, there just isn't any different. The whole, that feeling, that beauty, that love that's within you is going to come. It's there and you can have it. It doesn't make any difference what it is you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. And something that actually I found quite impactful for me was to know that, well, how we feel, it's just like a wave that washes over us. And for me, it actually has allowed me to go into things like anger that I would have never allowed myself to even go to. I'd be the queen of resentment. You know, I'd never say a word and definitely not no, you know, but geez, I would resent kind of, you know, I'd be boiling under, you know, on the inside, I'd be boiling. It isn't that I'd be kind of just like, you know, you walk all over me and I'm really content. No, I'd hate you. I hate your guts from the inside, you know, but I would never allow myself to let that out, because like you don't, you know, as a good girl, you don't do anger. And I've just sort of fairly recently discovered how liberating that is, to just allow yourself to have a shitty day. You know, it's like, I'm fucking grumpy today. It's like, it's so weird, you know, and, you know, I'm angry. And, you know, and it was actually, I remember last year, I had to do a fitting for a group of kids, and there had been some misunderstanding with the parents, and anyway, and this mother kind of yelled at me why I wasn't there when she thought I should have been there, and whatever. And I think for the first time in my life ever, I actually yelled back. And when, not in the sense that I didn't say anything horrible, but I just kind of didn't stand there swallowing it and then bickering on, you know, on the inside. I just kind of told her what I thought of the whole thing, you know. And she was like, but I remember kind of walking home, getting into my car, and I'm like, you know, it had all evaporated already. You know, and I didn't kind of replay the dialogue in my head and what I should have said and shouldn't have, you know, none of that. I'm like, God, I never knew how liberating that is, to allow yourself to live all the emotions. And actually, you know, even allow yourself to go down as well, knowing that it's just like a wave. You're going to come back up. So, like, there's nothing you have to do to try and cut that short or to not have it happen, or, you know. And I think that's really, really liberating as well.
Yeah, it's very, very liberating. Just knowing that you're always taken care of, always okay. Nothing, you know. If you're angry, you're angry. If you're not, you're not. If you, it's all okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's for sure.
It's been an absolute joy speaking to you.
It was so lovely to see you again.
It's lovely to see you too. So if anybody would like to get in touch with you, know about more about you or anything like that, have you got?
I'm an old geek. Of course, I'm going to have a website. Yeah. No, it's like it's my
flamenco dress.
Oh yeah, if you want a flamenco dress, you can have that too. No, my website is ankeherrmann.com. Like my name, last name with double R, double N. Like just my full name.com, ankeherrmann.com. And from there's a link to the flamenco dressmaker and all of that. So yeah, that's the easiest.
And your
everything
too?
Else. That's the thing. Like it's the coaching website, but then from there's also a link to the social media. And yeah, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on LinkedIn, and I don't do much on Twitter. I've got an account, but I hardly use it. And I'm on Instagram and Pinterest and kind of everywhere. But
you have got a sewing page on Facebook as well, haven't you? If anyone, you know, is into 3 principles and sewing, it's
yeah, no, I've got a group for sewing professionals, because I think that's for me what it started the whole coaching journey, you know, to sort of, and I've got, it's called the Ingenious Sewing Professionals Network, and it's a group for sewing professionals, people who want to make a living or you know, make some money out of their sewing, and they've either started or not think about starting. So that's a group that's been a lot of fun. I think, you know, I think a lot of people came for, you know, thinking we'd be talking about pattern making and fabric buying, and in the end, so they're getting something quite different. But yeah, it's been
but I think
it's been a year now.
It does, when you understand your own mind, when you kind of know who you are a little bit more. I think anything that you do in life, sewing or anything that you do in life, just you do have a very different experience of it. And I know earlier in the conversation when you kind of said maybe on the outside, because like the resentment that you were talking about, I think a lot of us that do that, a lot of us that are people pleasers and then resent people, we hide it. Nobody knows that's what's going on. We're all sweetness and light on the outside. How do? And and then for us, I think when we begin to see this, the experience for us is just night and day different. When you
180 degrees, yeah. And it's funny because, like in my sewing business is this classic example in the sense that I still work with 90% of the same clients. And, you know, like initially when I kind of started to like, okay, sort of, you know, no longer saying yes to everything. And so I expected actually to lose a lot of clients, and I didn't. And the thing that really got me was that all of a sudden my clients kind of had changed, you know, those, and I'm like, and I thought, oh, look, isn't that funny how as soon as I, like what I thought, like as soon as I kind of put my foot down, look how they change, until I realized that they hadn't changed at all. That the kind and lovely side that I all of a sudden got to see, that had actually always been there. That I just never been able to see it. And so it was like, oh, you know, so yeah. I think George Pransky's relationship handbook has actually been quite an eye-opener for me in that respect as well. Because it was that first time like, oh, so you think you're so nice and all these nasty people doing all these things to you? I'm like, ooh, ouch, that hurts. You know? Because when you know, and he said, you know, do you think, how nice do you actually think you are when you sort of all kind of smiles on the outside, but then resent on the inside? You're not half as nice as you think you are. And yeah, so I thought, oh shit, you know, that kind of really sinks in.
And that's definitely interestingly, like these webinars, the Lovely People webinars, it's been, since everything has changed for me, people just look lovely. I feel as if I'm in this world of just lovely people.
Yeah, I've got the same experience, definitely. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah. And I've really seen it, like, you know, clients that I thought as, you know, well, as soon as I'm going to say no, then they're going to, like, they're my nightmare clients and the demanding clients and the pain in the ass clients, you know. And all of a sudden, it's like, she's lovely. What was my problem with her? You know, like, and there's so many. It's not just one person where you think, oh, well, I've, you know, sort of got it wrong a bit. No, like there's an awful lot of people.
Yeah, across the board.
Who I thought were sort of kind of, well, okay, they're going to disappear, and if they kind of don't come back, I'll be glad, you know. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, yeah, and then they're the same people. That's incredible.
Yeah, when we begin looking at people through those eyes, people do start to look very beautiful and lovely, don't they?
And I think, you know what you just said, when we kind of all smiles on the outside, but inside resent, try to sort of hide it. I think on a certain level, people can sense it.
Yeah.
Because I do get the feeling that when you actually look at them and genuinely see them as lovely people, they can feel it. I don't know, maybe I'm making this up, but I have the sense that both the resentment and when it's not there, that people can actually feel that.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that.
And if I make it up, it's a nice thing to make up.
It sounds lovely. So has anyone got anything they would like to add, ask, share, comment, anything? Nope. Oh, I think that's just been amazing. I've absolutely loved it. So
that's so much fun. Don't we love it when you do just for fun, just for the pure fun of it?
This is it. I'm loving the just doing these webinars. It was just wow, all these lovely people. Let's just talk to someone lovely every week. Wow, you know.
Yeah, that's such a great idea. I love it.
What a great way to spend an evening.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's been a pleasure. So next week we have got the lovely Anne Ross. Is that true? Joining. Yeah. Anne Ross will be joining us next week. So if anyone would like to come and listen to what Anne Ross has to say and her sharing her experience of the principles, because the thing that I love about this is all the guests we've had have been so totally different. You know, we've kind of been talking about the same thing, pointing in the same direction, and yet I don't think any two of these webinars have even been similar. You know, they've been massively different. So that's really been interesting to me too. So I'm really, really, really looking forward to speaking to Anne Ross next week. So that will be 7 o'clock on Wednesday again, and hopefully I'll get my links sorted. Sorry about that, guys. Was there anything else that I'm supposed to be saying, Lou and Beck? They always check out. And I'm good.
Yeah, you're all good.
You did very well.
Well done. You might be able to do this on your own sometime.
They check out that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah,
that's good.
Thank you, Anke.
Well, thank you.
Oh, is that right?
It's Anke, but I'm so used to all sorts of variations of the theme, so I react to anything.
You're really funny. I like it. Yeah, we really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
It's been a pleasure. It's been lovely. It was really lovely to meet you when I met, and we will have to meet in person again very soon.
Oh, definitely.
And Sharon, to say a message. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Sharon. Really nice to meet you. Hopefully we will meet you in person soon. It's been a really, really lovely evening, everyone. Thank you very, very much. If anyone lives near to Barnstable, we have got our meetup tomorrow evening, an in-person meetup tomorrow evening, which is always lovely to welcome people there. And if not, hopefully we will see you all again next week. So thank you ever so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Really good evening. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Stop recording.